good evening to you. I will speak now that most of the session is through. This is the best time of the afternoon. Yeah? How many cups of tea and biscuits have you folks had since you came over here? Coffee? Plenty. Huh? And a nice lunch? Great. So what is this time for now? Is it time to do some serious work, or is it time for generally reflect on life? It's a very disciplined crowd we have over here. Yeah. Absolutely. They will not say one thing which is politically incorrect. Don't worry, I'll make up for you. Yeah. Okay. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Okay. I would expect all of you, after I finish my extremely short talk, yeah, to focus on what is on the screen at this point in time. I'm extremely happy that Sandeep from PM Pro, yeah, will be sharing with us a brief case study on any upheavals which have occurred in his merchandising life over the past 6, 8, 10, 12 months. Likewise, Harsh from Super Fashion will be doing the same. And perhaps I need one more representative or two more representatives from a third company who can maybe talk about the fourth point which we have over here, which is how would you introduce your company to a prospective buyer? Yeah, you met them at a trade fair maybe, or somebody just lost their way and walked into your factory, or something which has happened. How would you do that? What would be your process? If you could share that with us, believe you me, it will be far more meaningful for this gathering than all the academic talks which we have been having and which I shall continue now to rattle out. Yeah. I'm extremely fortunate actually, I'm very fortunate that all the stuff to the last word has already been mentioned since 9 o'clock in the morning by my superiors and my betters. Yeah. So even if I skip out a line or two, it will have no real impact on your learning. That learning has already come if you are paying attention. Nonetheless, having been in this industry for many, many, many years, yeah, and still more an industry wala than an independent consultant or anything like that, yeah, let me just put in my 2 bits for the next 15, 20 minutes or so. And then we can go down to the real agenda for this session, which is your case studies. So, if I have your indulgence, we start, yeah? Now, that could be your customer. Which one is it? The lady on the left or the rather happy guy on the right? It's for, sorry? The lady on the left? Yeah, okay. Now, that is what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus on this, which was the first words which was spoken, yeah, by the gentleman from Wazir when he just opened his session in the morning, that we are customer centric in our industry, in every industry as a matter of fact, yeah. Okay, so this is what the customer wants to say, and let us see what we need to do to get over there, and how at various times in my life I have tried my best to thrill my customer much more than I've tried to fool my customer. That never works. In my early years, I tried to do all that. Yeah. Okay. The customer connect is of great significance in this era and the shifting paradigms. We have heard it a lot about that today. Okay. I must start out in a word of appreciation for Mr. Kesar. About 2 months ago, when I was contemplating whether to speak at this forum, and that's how early he starts his work. So full marks for a great TNA to Mr. Kesar, seriously. I think, and a much more controlled TNA than what we normally make, because we normally give up on our TNAs after the 4th activity, because after that events overtake us. Am I right? How many of you have got past the 4th thing on the TNA? We start with a big long TNA, tick off the first task, which was receiving the PO, which is great, everybody knows that, Tariq likh diya uspe. Yeah, by the time we come to the lab dips, which is number 3, the interest starts waning, and by the time the 5th, it's all a mess anyway. Yeah, so then the TNA goes into a drawer, and we say, yeah, where's the crisis, where's the fire, let's put it out. Yeah. Has it changed? Don't worry, it was the same when I came into this business 40 years ago. Nothing has changed. Yeah. Shifting paradigms, this bit will not shift, not immediately anyway. Yeah. So it was a revelation meeting up with Mr. Kesar. What a thorough gentleman. I'm a fan of his. Yeah. And when I spoke to him, and he said, listen, what would you like to talk about? Would you like to talk about post shipment merchandising or pre-shipment merchandising? So it took me a while to connect the two because I've been out in the industry for 3-4 years now. So bhul jate hain, yeah. I said, pre. So he said, okay, done. Kya baatein karoge? What will you talk about? So I said, what? Pre-production merchandising, I'll talk about everything which you talk about. I'll talk about file handovers, I'll talk about tech packs, I'll talk about creation of timelines, I'll talk about trim and label cards, I'll talk about lab deliverables, fabric and trims ordering, FPT, GPT, PP sample approvals, conduct a PP meeting, and come to a PCT. He looked at me with a very benign smile, half condescending, I must say. And he said, listen, these guys you're going to meet are your grandfathers in merchandising. Why are you trying to teach them all this? Yeah, I said, I'm not teaching. That's what you said, pre-production merchandising. Yeah. Moreover, I said, yeah, we all know that the merchandiser, yeah, is the key person. He's the star of the show. He's the link. He's the bridge. He's this, that between production, shipping, sampling, product development, price. Bas. Bahut ho gaya. Listen, try and give them something new. Yeah. Can you speak something about, talking about a customer's perspective or something like that? The customer, the guy who signs the checks at the end of the month or every shipment. So, Hajar chastened. I said, yes, sir. Yeah. And then I started thinking, what am I going to talk about? And then it started. And when I saw the first schedule, I saw that I was there for 10:30 in the morning, immediately after the first tea break. Yeah. So I said, all right, kya kiya jaye ab? Kuch kaam karna padega. But then the second schedule came and I was after lunch. And then finally the third schedule came. I was, the last session. When tomorrow's schedule comes, I won't be there at all. Yeah. But that's okay, because this is a relaxed time. Yeah, it's a relaxed time. Perhaps the maximum learning can come over here, perhaps not. That's up to you. Yeah. Okay. So having said all that, yeah, I come to what Mr. Tony Uppal asked this morning. I think to Archana. Archana, sorry. Yeah. Define what an export merchandiser is. Yeah. And I said, hey, you stole my thunder, Tony. Why did you do that? Yeah. Okay, so what is an export merchandiser? I mean, I know what a store merchandiser is. Yeah. He or she is the person who does the selection, the range, the pricing, and the timing of the merchandise in the store. Yeah. All for what? All to stimulate the customer to buy more. Stimulating the customer to buy more, right? Okay. And therefore, this is what they come out with. Great. Whole lot of pants there, pink, green, everything. Yeah. I also know what a visual merchandiser is. Yeah. The packaging, the display, store ambience, yeah, the kind of courtesy staff of the staff, etc. Again, for what? To stimulate the customer to buy more, right? So that's visual, that's store merchandiser. Yeah. We have got the customer. So what is the export merchandiser? Definition, please. Stimulating the customer to buy more, stimulating the customer to buy more. At the end of the day, that is your mantra. And that mantra has been said times without number. Yeah. Even to the side that, guys, what is profit? Yeah. Selling price minus cost price. So we are back to the basics. This is also pretty much similar to back to the basics. Yeah. How does this look as a definition to you? It's not from a textbook. Does it look somewhat appropriate? Does it look politically correct? Yeah. You know, we are a nation which is now not known for its tolerance levels. Okay, so can we say that export merchandising, yeah, is the developing, so that's a key word, yeah, manufacturing, another big key word, and shipping product, yeah, in a manner which compels your customer to buy more from your company. Yeah? Is that a good definition? Say yes or no, yaar. Yes. Thank you. Yeah? Couldn't have done it better myself. Okay, great. So it's all about the customer, folks. You can have a customer jumping with joy. You can have customers making faces, you can have customer giving you guaranteed satisfaction, everything. Yeah, it's all a matter of the customer. Yeah. And as I went down this 40-year journey, yeah, we started so long ago, yeah, when there were no quotas and when everything was in its infancy, really. Yeah, and margins were 50% and government incentive was 35%. That was the time to be in this industry, except that I wasn't. So, broke chala aaya hai, broke chala jayega kind of stuff. Anyway, yeah, so it's all about the customer, seriously. Yeah. And if you, yeah, want increased business volumes, yeah, which at the end of the day is the reason for you being there, your raison d'être, as the French say, then the solution is only one: customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction. And you know what the good news is? Yeah. The good news is that exceptional customer service is still very hard to find, even in the best of corporations. Yeah. Somebody mentioned, was it at lunch or was it in one of the forums, yeah, that till the time we receive the order, we are all sugar and honey and spice. And the moment the order is ours, then tu kaun, main kaun, till it's shipped out, and then the nervousness starts कि कहीं वापस तो नहीं भेज देगा. तो बड़ी टेंशन होती है उस time. Yeah, you get ingrowing toenails and all sorts of things happen, right? Okay. But that is true. Exceptional customer service is extremely difficult to find in any organization. So if you, as merchandisers in your organization, small, big, medium, can latch on to this mantra of exceptional customer service, yeah, there's nothing stopping your organization or you, yeah, from being firmly entrenched on the map of potential suppliers. Okay. Now, over time, yeah, I evolved certain mantras for myself. Yeah. Most of it was for my own survival. Yeah. And some of it was for my own perpetuation, yeah, so that I came to so I could retire when I wanted to retire and not get thrown about. Yeah. And these were my mantras for using the word thrilling my customer. They're very simple and they will take all of 3.5 minutes to talk about because they've been spoken about at length. They're just in a way a summary. And after that, I'll leave the floor open to questions. And after that, we'll have our case studies. And I hope somebody is working on that one, the third one which I mentioned, about how you would introduce your company. Okay. So my first mantra was knowing my customer. Now, knowing my customer did not necessarily mean, yeah, just knowing the person I was going to be interacting with. Yeah. Having been in this industry for quite a while, as a junior, obviously it was that one-person contact. So I was the hey you around the place. Yeah. And as you grew up, naturally you started meeting more people. Yeah. And as you grew up further, you started meeting even more senior people. Yeah. But knowing the customer also meant, yeah, what was the vision of the company I was supplying to? What was their market standing? Yeah. What was their product profile? What was their competition? Yeah. And what was their organization structure? To me, that was important. Or it became obvious that it should have been important much earlier. Okay. There was a bit of a, knowing who their competition was, it was extremely important because it made life much easier. Why? Because you went to London or you went to New York and you shopped from their competitions, cut out the label and said, this is my product, kaisa laga? And invariably the chance of it getting picked up is great. Yeah. So nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly legal. I bought it from a shop. Yeah. And I don't supply to that person, so nothing illegal about it. Yeah. Then I found out what the key driver of that company was. Was that a market-driven company? Was that a product-driven company? Or was that a design-driven company? Yeah. Now, there are nuances over here which you need to understand. Okay. You will say every company is market-driven. Obviously it is, otherwise it wouldn't be in the market. But the way to penetrate that market and the way to get close to the customer for that company might be different. Some companies might completely rely on a certain type of category of product for which they become known. I wonder if any of you recall Rennie Derry of the old days. Yeah. Only romantic embroidered blouses. Yeah. Some are totally design driven and that would include all the couture companies, yeah, and some, yeah, are market driven. Market wants this, which is market driven. Zara, that's your first example. Zara is totally market driven. They only have stylists, no designers, and whatever the market is buying, immediately feedback. But now, so that was the second thing about knowing the customer. Yeah. And finally, having known this, who the people were and their organization structure, yeah, then came the time to align my team, yeah, to that company's structure, organization structure, and knowing the people. One had to be extremely diplomatic about all these things. You can't really override your corresponding merchandiser at the other end and go to the shipping and logistics person, मेरे को extension चाहिए कहीं से निकाल. होता है. But if you have the scenario going correctly, then without offending anybody, you can get to about 50% of the time you can get something which you want, yeah, with their consonance and with their blessing. That's the most important thing. Don't lose the blessing. Don't just pick up the phone and talk to the chairman of the company, listen, I'm running 2 weeks late, yeah, so please get me an extension, because that means he's overriding 20 other people in the hierarchy, and that's not going to get you no friends. Okay. So knowing the customer was my first mantra. The next mantra was knowing my product and knowing it cold. You know what knowing my product cold means? That I know every nuance of that product. I know it inside out. I have it for breakfast. Yeah. From the fiber to the yarn to the weaving to the knitting to the processing to the finishing. Everything there is to be known about fabrics has to be known by you. Otherwise, you don't know what you're selling and you don't know what you're talking about. And then you'll start using words which personally I used to hate over there. I'll check up on this. I'll try this. I'll do my best to do this. That is nonsensical. That is very Indian. And sometimes in an international market, you don't have to be very Indian. You have to be very international. So know your product stone cold. Know the embroideries, know the trims, know the printings, know the zips, know the buttons, know everything, and know everything about the testing. The day a fabric is adopted, tell your merchandiser, tell design, hey, you know this fabric, yeah, this will have problems in slippage. So shall we try out something by using a different yarn? Maybe it will not be as fine, but at least it will be safe. Now that's the way to talk. Then you are bringing something to the table. Yeah, but what happens normally is the customer say, hey, I like this fabric. Sample it for me, so it gets sampled. It's adopted in the line, it's adopted. Salesman samples are made, they are made. And then when it comes to bulk production, yeah, I mean, 3-4 months have gone, and then you say, you know, I can't control the slippage. Yeah, should I give it this seam? Should I try a French seam? Should I try double overlocking? What is all this nonsense here? You should have done this ages ago, as somebody was just saying. It's preempt it all, isn't it? Yeah, that's the way to do it, guys. Okay, so know the product cold. If you don't know the product, go for a refresher course somewhere. The third mantra was listen. Listen to the customer before you talk. Yeah. Now, this is a combination of soft skills and hard skills. Once you listen, you will understand what his or her real needs are. Yeah. And I learned this the hard way, seriously. Every time the customer used to call, I used to pretend I was overly busy because I didn't want to take a call which I thought might lead to a confrontation. So the understudy slipped in for me. Yeah. And then after 9 o'clock at night, I used to put the phone on silent mode or put it off the cradle depending on what era we were in at that point in time. Yeah. No, all nonsensical. One has to learn to listen to the customer. Not all that you listen to will be pleasant. Some could be very unpleasant, but at the end of the day, it will be far more pleasant than otherwise. Yeah. And when you're talking to them physically, yeah, or even on Skype, or even as a video conference, look them in the eye. There's nothing to hide, you know. Okay. Tune out all distractions. What are all distractions? And all distraction is you're on a video conference and your cell phone rings and you say to the screen, you say hang on, and you start listening. Kal bhej dena. What is this nonsense here? And this happens, yeah? Even if your director is calling at that point, right, just tell him politely, SMS, I'm in a video conference, we'll be free in half an hour, and I'll talk to you. No problem. Nobody's going to hang you for that. Yeah. Watch the tone of your voice. Yeah. There's a figure over there which I've purposely included. Yeah. And watch your body language. You know, what is body language? Direct eye contact, no shifting eyes, no dropping eyes, the way your knees are placed, the way your shoulder is going. Read a book about it. Yeah. What I'm talking to you, only, how much is it? Yeah, 7% is the communication through the conversation. Yeah. A whole lot more is through the tone of the voice. Yeah. But more than 50% is through what is called body language. And within 2 minutes, a person knows whether this merchandiser and I are going to gel together, the customer knows. Or whether I'm going to have problems of this. So why should I go into this mara-mari with this merchandiser? Let me walk to the neighboring company. There are how many of them in just down that road in Faridabad? Probably 50 or 60. So they'll just walk to the next one, yeah. Okay. You as a merchandiser can make or mar the business. Keep that in mind. My sincere hope is that you will make the business. Yeah. And this is a place where you can go very, very wrong by not listening to your customer. Okay. Mantra number 4. Be definite in your commitments. Definite. Okay. We in India, unfortunately, because of circumstances, because of the way we've been brought up, or because हमारे जो हालात हैं, जिसको हम बोलते हैं ना, हालात हैं, हिंदी मूवीज में रोज होता है, हमारे हालात ही ऐसे थे, क्या करें, मैं लुट गया, मर गया. या हमारे जो हालात हैं, या are very conducive to giving what are called evasive answers. When you will you ship this sample out? Oh, in 5-6 days. What do you mean by 5-6 days? Either say 5 or say 6. No, we are allowing ourselves that margin. 5-6 days. Yeah. Okay. Will you be able to ship it out? Yes or no? Just say no or say yes. I will do my best to ship it out. Now, what does that mean? To me, that means it will not be shipped out. Seriously. Or I'm trying my best, or I'm doing my best. Yeah. And last thing, the ability to say no. Can this be done? The customer will ask. Say no. I've tried 3 things. It's not possible. It cannot be done. Just say that. No. After having tried it 3 times, after having told him on email, okay, it can't be done, then again when he asks you personally, you'll say, I'll try again. And you know it's not going to happen here. So what? क्यों वो मौत को क्यों खींच रहे हो और आगे यार? Just say no. We don't have this ability to say no. Okay. So be definite in your commitments. Okay. That is mantra 4. Okay. Mantra 5. Communicating effectively. Yeah. And it's a very weak point in our entire merchandising fraternity, and I still consider myself as part of that. Make it a point to call your customer on a fixed day, fixed time every week if circumstances permit. Always have an agenda. Don't just call ke hanji kya haal hai, how's the weather in Europe, etc. No, that might be the real agenda, but always have 3 points of any other agenda and fix up the time beforehand. Listen, Shirley, I want to talk to you about these 3 things, yeah, which could be issues, so perhaps we can discuss them. Yeah. Can I call you up at 9 a.m. your time or 2 p.m. your time? And the answer you will get is probably yes, unless of course Shirley is out somewhere. Yeah. Okay. So that's the time when you talk. Then you can introduce other topics into the conversation. But remember, a phone call, yeah, with a well-modulated voice is far more bonding than an email. Anytime, every time. Okay. That will help you to make a certain connect which an email can never make you get that connect. Number 2, about communication, there will be always bad news in our business. Yeah. For every 1 good news, there are 4.5 bad news. Yeah. Okay, if it's a bad news, say it up front. That bad news is not going to go away in 24 hours, so might as well say it today. Don't wait till tomorrow. And if there is enough time afterwards, the customer is appreciative that you cautioned them, and number two, they will try and work out a solution with you together. If you delay it, then you guys are on the opposite sides of the Atlantic, which you are, of course. So never delay the bad news. Yeah. Okay. Emails. Yeah. Now you know that on the average. Let me just ask a simple question. How many emails do you guys send out on average in a day? 5, 10, 15, 20? Right? Okay. Now imagine there's a merchandiser who's doing one whole line of 200 styles. Okay. 5 of which are with you, and the remaining 195 are across 5 countries. How many emails will he or she be receiving in a day? Huh? 5 into? So that's quite a bit. Yeah. So you've got to understand that perspective. Okay. So if you are having problems with 10 emails or 15 emails, yeah, then I can assure you she's got 10 times the number of problems by dealing with 200 emails. Yeah. And then you go all get het up and this and that. I asked for this, abhi tak jawab nahi aaya, I've been waiting for 4 hours or 8 hours or 1 day or 2 days. Whenever that happens, just call. Just call. And your emails have to be extremely short, yeah, extremely crisp, extremely precise. Yeah. That's when you're sending them out. When you're answering them and she asks for 4 points, you only answered 2. That is the biggest. That makes me see red, and that is, let's face it, I've done it myself. Because 2 of the points are palatable and I can answer them. 2 of them are gande points. यार उसको जवाब दूंगा तो मर जाऊंगा. तो I sweep them under the carpet. Doesn't work here. Address those 2 points first and get it over with. Yeah? And finally, no excuses. Don't make excuses. Okay, I'm sorry, yesterday was Karwa Chauth, therefore the factory was closed. We all knew it was Karwa Chauth yesterday, yeah? We knew that 1 month ago. तो बोलने का था तब 1 month ago, listen, Karwa Chauth is coming and there's going to be sparse attendance in the merchandising or whatever it is. Yeah. Yesterday I got a call from one of the institutes which I teach and they said, sir, आज classes नहीं है. I said, क्यों? Yeah, because it was my scheduled lecture over there. They said, आज Karwa Chauth है. I said, अच्छा? But I've got a totally male class. He said, exactly, they're being kept at home. I said, yeah, but this is true, Archana, by the way. Are you aware of it? Okay. All right. So that's correct, yeah. But if I had been told a week in advance, I could have done something more productive with last evening. But I was told 1 hour before the lecture, and that was the way we typically work. Na, Karwa Chauth hamesha tha. Okay. Number 6 is always bring value to the table. Mantra number 6. Okay. That in terms of product research, that in terms of what the competition is busy with, yeah, proactive and preemptive approach, yeah, and of course taking ownership. Now I know you've heard these words before, times without number earlier in the day, so I'm not original, so I can't help it. I tried very hard to look for a word of taking ownership, but I couldn't. Yeah, okay. So we've enough said, but that is the value which you're actually bringing to the table. And if you bring that value, you'll be appreciated for it. And finally, putting the customer first every time. Now, I know, unfortunately, a lot of, in these several years, there's been a lot of merchandisers who अपने customers को गाली देते हैं. The guy does not know what he's doing. Sometimes he changes this, sometimes he changes that. He's doing that not to prod you. He's doing that because it's the dictate of his business. Yeah. Oh, that's a picture. I thought you were putting your hand up. Hello. Yeah. Okay. Now, you have to run that extra mile for your customer. Each time and every time. And if the customer says, sorry, you have to stand on your head again, you'll say, with pleasure. And stand on your head. Khatam. What's so difficult about it? Has to be done, it has to be done. Put the customer first every time because the customer is right every time. And sometimes, of course, it's not easy. You might have a conflict of interest with your production team. That happens the most often. Yeah, you'll have a conflict of interest maybe with your own management. Yeah, and you'll have a conflict of interest with God knows who else. Yeah, but ultimately, if you're going to be married, you might as well be married to the customer in a manner of speaking, besides, of course, to the ethos of your company. Yeah? So that was the 7th mantra. Okay, अब ये 7 फेरे complete हो गए. I hope this has brought you closer to your customer. I hope this was in a way the distillation of the several years spent in this industry. Yeah. And may I request now one of the teams to come and share their experiences, please. Yeah, the team from PM Pro, they were the first to have volunteered. Come.
Hi, I'm Sandeep from PM Pro. Poonam will share some experience with you guys.
Hi, good evening everyone. This is one of my self-experience which I faced with one of my buyer. There was one style where I ordered the wash care and the quantity was about 50,000 pieces. And the wash care I ordered with the fabric was imported, and we have a place when we ordered a wash care, we have to tick a mark like the fabric is imported or not. So that was my, I myself like forgot to tick on the tick that it is an imported fabric. So somehow the wash care been in-housed, and about like on 20,000 pieces the wash care was already put on. Then somehow when I was going through my mails and everything, then manuals, I just get to know like, oh, I just forgot to tick that mark. So I discussed with my my agency that I have forgot this, then what to do. So they said no, like I discussed this all in detail with them. So they said okay, then their team said that the fabric is imported, this information is to be passed and is necessary in only few markets, not in all the markets where your product goes. So they just said that like maybe that the market in which this has to be mentioned that on the wash care that the fabric used is imported, was the quantity was only about like 1,000 pieces. So they said now don't worry. So this time you can make in fresh wash cares, and where you can like mention that the fabric like is imported, and you can just continue with the rest of the quantity. And this is how I managed to save the wash care which were in-housed, and I save my production as well. So my production goes on. This is how I just solve my problem.
Good evening, friends. I have a very classic example where sir told knowing my customer well. So what happened with me, I got an opportunity from my management to handle a very good customer which gave me orders of like 20,000 pieces per style to 50,000 pieces per style. So I was so excited and I wanted to do that because it was a very big customer, and I said, okay sir, I will be going ahead and meeting the customers and will handle that account very well. I went to the buying agency, I got new tech packs, around 10 tech packs they gave me, and they said, okay Harsh, you have 2 weeks time to make that development. I said, very good, I will be doing the needful. I took the tech packs, I read through it, I started on it, I delivered on time with very good outputs, very beautiful samples, very good presentation, and it was sent to the customer. So when it went to the customer, the buying agencies were also very happy with the product. And the feedback came from the customer. When I went to the buying agency and said, what is the feedback? Said, those styles have already been placed somewhere else. So I was shocked why the samples, when the samples are so beautiful and the customers are not liking, if there is any bad news for me, they should come back and say at least that this is not right, instead of giving the orders to some other vendor. So I went to the senior managements, to the buying agencies people, and I sat with them, I had a meeting, and I wanted to take that proper feedback why my styles were offered to some other supplier and not given the orders to me. So they went back to the customer, the buying agency people went back to the customers asking the same question, and they came back that, sorry, the samples were beautiful, on time, but the price which you gave was too high, and we had no time and we shifted the style. So I said, this is not fair, because if this is my sample and the samples was on time, so they should have come back saying refusal of orders. Why they're not coming back and saying, the buyers do not have time now. Buyers are getting samples all over the country and they're sitting together, and if they're seeing the pricing, whatever sample you have sent is equivalent to the other supplier which they have given, and the price is lesser than you, so they will not come back and say that, okay, sorry, X factory, you are very nice, you have given everything time, but they don't have time, they'll place it, and without informing you, they'll give the orders. So this was a very bad news for me then. So I went back, I thought about it, what to do. So next time I said, give me one more chance, I will try my best to meet whatever is the requirement. I went back, I got the opportunity to get few more tech packs. I again did the very good job on it, and I gave them then options with the tech packs which they gave it to me to do. So for example, if I've got 10 packs as per the buyer's requirement, I gave my design inputs and gave my tech packs with the cost sheet, said, okay guys, this is the 4-pound style, this is 3-pound style, this is 2-pound style. Okay, now you don't have the opportunity to ask any other vendors and come back to me and give the orders to me. So they appreciated that, and finally I got all 10 styles on my table for the orders and started making my TA for that.
Good evening guys, Anil Bhutani this side. I would like to share one point where I have booked a style with a linen rayon gauze. This fabric always has a seam slippage. So at the time of booking the order, we didn't share the parameters of rating. That what would be the rating of seam slippage, what would be the rating of tear and tensile strain. We have highlighted at the time of order, but didn't share the percentage. So when my FPT come, there was a very low rating. I requested that we will improve in the GPT area. Then I submitted the GP, again it was a very low rating. And at the time of PCD, if I am stuck in the GPT and FPT, it means my construction is not closed. I cannot start my production. In that scenario, I wasted around 15 days, which is a very important, very crucial area in close to my PCD and delivery date. So at that moment, we have closed my styling by using the 1/4 fusing at seams area, which factory has costed around, SAM was also double. So it was a basically factory shipped that style in a undercoat. So that is a learning curve for my also. So that I'm sharing with you. That in terms of FPT, GPT, the parameter has to be close with the bar that that kind of rating would be there in FPT and GPT, the seam slippage, tear and tensile.
Okay, since we are talking practical and the presentation is over, and like Anoop had promised that this is going to be an easy session, no theory, no more research. So, just an exercise about just to understand from you people so that the others also, the question that Anoop has raised is that you're going to meet a buyer for the first time and assume that, you've not checked his profile on the internet and you don't know him at all. What are the kind of things that you would like to know about the buyer from him? And what are the kind of things about your factory or your organization that you would like to tell him? So you get only 5 minutes actually, we don't have so much time. You get 5 minutes to write it down, and then we'll have a little discussion on that. And please ensure that you are organized. We are looking at organized thought process here of all the merchandisers sitting in this room. So let's see what are the sort of answers that we get. And you people do this all the time. So you just want to know how one organization is going to be different from the other.
Hi, this is Rajiv here from Dimple Creation. This is Bhavita. This is heading the PD department, and I am heading the merchandising department. So about the buyer meeting, first of all, we need to share the formal introduction between the buyers and ours as well. Then about the product, what they are exactly looking for, like the kind of product they are looking for. Then the price range, quantity, lead time, and the major part is price and the payment terms. Now this payment terms is like very tricky. They are saying something else, and while we are receiving the LCs or like other things, then the payment terms are different. Then about the stores and supply chain management, how they want the goods, either they want in a certain way or like they want to split it. Then about the order closing, what are the price they are looking for, what are the countries they are looking for, what are the testing parameters, that is the basic parameters they are looking for actually, because testing is very key part nowadays. Then later on we can discuss about other things. Those are the areas basically we need to discuss with the buyer. For the first time we are meeting with them. That's what I believe.
Actually, the first question that I would ask the buyer is who are the target customers? Who are they dealing with? And which segment do you cater to? That is the first two important questions. And then which brands do they look up to? And who are the competitors? This is the first ABC of the customer that I should know. And then only I can portray my company's USPs, what my company looks up to, who are the brands we deal with, and then the things that he has said.
Actually, if you are going to meet the buyer, then you must know what the buyer exactly for. What are the brands they are doing? What are the things they are doing? So you're very crystal clear while you are meeting the buyers, right? No, if you are going to meet the buyer, then you should be crystal clear.
The question was we have made the
If we are going to meet the buyer, we should have show of our strength also, that this kind of setup we have, this kind of embroidery setup, this kind of line setting, that we have to show our strength to get more business.
That's what I said, formal introduction is very necessary, right?
Yeah.
Introduction in the sense you need to show your capacity. Exactly, that's true. Any more questions, please?
We have designed a brochure for our company that portrays our strength like embroidery, heavy embellished garments, all that like we do. Our forte is a high embellished garment, so we include all that in our brochure.
Yeah. So you discuss the product in detail. How will you process that? Where were you on the night of the 14th?
Yeah.
Okay. No, but seriously, what is it that the customer really wants to know from you before he comes to you? The customer, the first thing wants to know, आप किसके लिए माल बनाते हैं? Right? Yeah. And number two, कितना माल बनाते हैं उनके लिए? How much do you make for them? No, please, sometimes we want to play close to our chest. We don't want to give it. You write that in your
Yeah, at the back side of the brochure we do have mentioned.
We do have the following customers.
Yeah, like we have.
We are supplying to
Victoria's Secret. So we have put their tags.
So you write that. Do you give your turnover?
Yeah, we do have.
Yeah. Okay. What else would you consider as like
Computer embroidery machine. And the number of machines.
How do you write capacity? Is it number of pieces or was it in minutes as was explained?
No, it was.
So it's an average.
Pieces.
So you always write that. Depends upon the category. Just category, third category, top category, How many of you maintain a website? How often do you update that website? Seriously now. Now don't pull me. Last updated 2005, 2010. So it's not actually it's something now which is becoming. Some of them are extremely old, and I'm talking even some of the top 5 companies in this country. If you go to the websites, they're not enduring enough and they're dated. That's the worst part, they're dated. Should the infrastructure of the company, like the kind of machines and everything, be a part of the process also? Absolutely. In addition to the buyers suffice, please satisfied with the capacities and the pricing that the variety of the customer would certainly, especially if yours is a different unit, which is from the integrated unit, there is a kind of knitting capability which you have totally. That is something which we know. Yeah, okay. So it is very important to get the entire infrastructure details. It is important to figure out compliance details. That you are totally compliant for US and European countries. All these are now taken for granted. So it must be there in real time. And what is not required is we are a leading maker and what is a leading maker. They are not like I thought I was audible enough. Okay, yeah, so, update the website. That is absolutely vital and crucial. And update means giving it a new look every 6 months or so. Completely different colors, yeah, different, because a lot has happened in the last 6 months. Yeah, you've grown, all businesses will grow. Yeah. And, but, something which is 2 years old is after all 2 years old. Even your board of directors might have changed. Who knows? You might be on the board of directors. Inshallah. Okay, any other question? Yeah, any other? You?
Yeah. Thank you. I think the most important thing is that the buyer would want to feel important and be served. So when they walk up to a exporter, they would want to listen that they'll be important for the company. So whenever we present ourselves, so it's important to keep that thing in mind. Yeah, that's the most important thing. The market, the size, the clients that they work with, the clients that they follow, the other brands.
Yeah, essentially to me what the customer is looking for, yeah, is to see how good a fit it is going to be. And a lot of the customers, the Americans especially, yeah, they are very happy with playing follow the leader. So if they find that you are producing for both Tommy Hilfiger and for Polo Ralph Lauren, they're yours, and that's great. And the first thing they'll say, what are you doing for them? Now it's up to you how you disguise it and how you show it and how you don't show it. That's your ethics. That's the way you work. Yeah, I've got no comment on that. Okay, but I personally, what I've done is that shopping bit which I told you about. Go to Tommy, go and buy 10 Tommy garments and say, hey, look what I'm making. With the labels torn off. And whom are you making? Tommy. Met Tommy in my life. Okay, but that to me is not non-ethical. Let me be honest.
So I want to add one more.
Please, then come right here. No. Right. Never let hide your light behind the bushes.
So I wanted to ask everybody, how have you retained, how many years have you retained one customer in your company? I'm not asking only one customer. You might be handling 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 customers in a company. So what in an average, how much customers you are able to retain for like 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, when your customer comes to you and asks you. No, I'm not asking about whatever the points are. I am only asking how many years. I know that. But I wanted to ask that when you meet a customer, a buyer, and you represent, okay, I'm working for XYZ buyers. So what is the time period where you say I'm working for last 10 years for my all 10 buyers which I'm handling from last 20 years or which are in the company for last 20 years? Why not? That's the mindset I wanted to ask. No, that is the mindset. Why can't you retain a customer for a 10 years time period and retain till XY years, not only 2 years? Because I have personal experience where I say, okay, I'm handling River Island or XYZ buyer, which is only for 2 years or for 1 year, and I still say my customer, I'm still handling that customer when I'm not doing that. So this is also a very important question when you represent your factory.
The lacuna happens when you're actually not servicing a buyer any longer. Yeah, but because the brochure you've taken is 3 years old, and at that point of time you had perhaps polo jeans with you, and today you don't. Yeah, but it's still saying polo jeans, and then you have to lie your way through. And that is terrible. Yeah, and at the same time you can't admit, hey, listen, the brochure you're holding is 3 years old, sorry, if I don't have an updated version. And some people say they don't have an updated version and they all look foolish. So it's very important to go armed with the right kind of things, especially if you're at a trade fair, yeah, or if you're just walking down 7th Avenue, going from door to door, knocking the doors and so on for business.
Hi, I'm Param. I will just share my small experience. Probably it's 20 years in the business. I think it's not important to retain a customer, the only goal for a merchandiser. There is a time that you should let the customer go also. You should see your needs and your customer needs are aligned. There are customers who work twice in a year. They buy twice in a year. You're a manufacturing factory. You can't survive twice in a year buying. Maybe that customer is very big and very good, but it is giving you inconsistent work order, which your factory need a consistency to run your production lines. You might let that customer go, you look for a new customer, or you look for a new customer and when you have a customer, you feel that this customer should go, it might be 7-year-old, 8-year-old, you have new customer who's giving you more consistent. Or a merchant should understand the strength of the factory. That is very important in the business. A customer can have 20 product, which for the customer is very important. But your factory is looking for a specific product which is they are good in, or they make money in that, or they are better efficient in that. You should always create a pool with your marketing, with your merchandising, that you give that opportunity to the factory that they can select that style for your factory. That is the key for a merchandiser. It's just not shipping the style. That is not the aim. Shipping can be done, but if your factory hasn't made money in that, your team has not been efficient in that, and the process was smooth for that product, I think their merchandising fails incompletely, whether the style would have gone on time also. So that's some very small experience I want to share.
Converge again after 5 years, who knows? But at the end of the day, of course, you have to look after your business interests. Yeah, I'll go by what the gentleman said in the forum earlier, that yeah, we are there to make a profit. That's it. That's the first and overriding consideration. Okay, that's it. Dr. Archana, will you please close this session?
Yes. So, you know, I was discussing before Anup started the session, and he was apprehensive that he's going to be repetitive. And when I saw his, and I was also apprehensive that he will be repetitive, but I don't think he was repetitive. I think we learned a lot of things, and probably they are very practical. For example, things that he said about body language, you know, which we tend to ignore or don't give too much credence to. Facing and dealing with problems, you know, knowing that we have to first look at the bad news and deal with it, and then go on to the better one. Then listening more than saying, you know, and for me this is very important because I'm a teacher. So for me I have to keep telling myself that I have to listen more, I have to listen more. Even for merchandisers, this is very true, listening more than saying, and being realistic. So I think the session was completely different from what we've done since morning. I think it was very, very interactive, very interesting, and I'm sure each one of us, if we take back even one learning from this session, I would think this session has been successful, and I'm sure we are going to take back more than one. Is that right? Yeah. So first of all, a big, big applause for Mr. Gulati for doing the session. And second, let's applaud for everybody who's contributed to this session, and especially the audience which is sitting here. Thank you so much for being interactive, telling us things, you know, which you have dealt with, where you face problems and how you've overcome those problems. So excellent. I'm very happy to be a part of this session and hope to be a part in many more such sessions in the future. Thank you.